Welcome in, everybody. We'll get started here soon. We're going to start pretty soon, everybody. Just going to give a few more folks a chance to hop in. It's good to see a lot of familiar and new faces in the list of attendees right now. Feel free to use the chat room and the Q&A feature. Okay, everybody? All right, for the sake of time, as more people continue to roll into the room and join us, I would like to say thank you all for being here. I'm Bradley Thomas Stevens. I am the chair of the education committee here for USBG. I'm also a board of directors and the owner of Serious PDX, a cocktail lounge in Portland, Oregon. So USBG, or the United States Bartenders Guild, is a nationwide nonprofit association dedicated to uniting and elevating the bar industry through education, community, and advocacy. In addition to supporting amazing educational programs like the one you're about ready to experience, our lead online learning program, the USBG provides year-round local, accessible, professional education programming, networking, community organizing, and regional at a national level. Celebration of tradition and camaraderie among hospitality professionals is also one of our big pillars. For housekeeping, real quick, like I mentioned earlier, for those that were here, please put your questions in the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen or through the chat box. Nigel will be busy presenting, so myself and some of the staff will be monitoring this and it's up to Nigel whether or not he wants us to interrupt him with questions or things like that. But we're definitely going to set aside some time at the end to go through the Q&A. At the end of this, you're going to get a survey emailed to you. Please, please, please take some time to answer that survey. I know we find these so annoying sometimes, but it takes a couple of minutes, and that is how we know what you want from us in the future. So if you fill this out, you say you had a good time, or maybe you didn't. I think that's hard to believe because Nigel's amazing, but it's going to help us direct future programming so that it's stuff that you do want to see. On to Nigel. Nigal Vann, his bio reads, on a quest to grow his craft, Nigal Vann learns new skills and shares the knowledge that he has acquired with other bartenders in his last 15 years. Is that right? He aims to make memories, not just drinks. He has experience in high volume venues, tiki-focused venues, and has worked closely with head chefs to create menu pairings. You can find Nigel volunteering with industry programs and holding leadership position in the USBG Chicago chapter. Nigel is also proud founder of Vanity Cocktails. Today, he's going to discuss the unspoken rules performing successfully in cocktail competitions. Nigel, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, it sounds great, and thank you for introducing me. Appreciate it.
It's always good to hear your voice and see you.
All right. Hey, well, thank you. Bradley, thank you for that introduction, and USBG, thank you very much for having me here. So as Bradley said, my name is Nigal Vann, and I'm going to teach a class I'm calling How to Win a Cocktail Competition, excuse me. So basically in this class, I'm going to tell you all the things that I have learned in my 10 to 15 years plus in the competition game. I see that there are a lot of rules written on paper, but there are a lot of rules that are like not known. And I want to share that information because there's some gaps out there that I'm looking to fill. So who I am and why am I qualified to do this? Well, like I said, I've been doing this for over a decade. I have done competitions locally, nationally. I have done competitions in beer and wine, making cocktails. And currently I won the title of the National Black Bartender with Maker's Mark in 2001. And I got the Hampton Water Rosé Rockstar in 2022. Now, not only have I been a competitor, but I've also been a judge in cocktail competitions. And I've been hired by different brands to kind of organize this stuff. So I get to see the stuff behind the scenes as well. So I'm a little all over the place. And that's why I've gained this information that I'm here to share today. So with that disclaimer said, this is something that I have gained. I am not getting paid to kind of share any brand's information. This is just personally my experience. So you can take this as a hard opinion, not necessarily fact. So you will get better at competitions with this, but I'm not guaranteeing you win, especially if I'm involved, if I'm competing against you. I'm just kidding, kidding. So let's talk about what a cocktail competition is. So a cocktail competition is meant to be a challenge for bartenders to showcase their passion, their skills, and their creativity and the art of mixology. They're typically going to be sponsored by a marketing agency, a liquor brand, or a hospitality group. So that's what a cocktail competition is. Now, why do they exist? Well, most competitions are sponsored by a specific brand and they're used as a marketing tool. So the marketing tool is supposed to increase the brand's visibility and show the world what they can do with their product, and hopefully that will increase their sales. So it's all about marketing. So not all competitions are going to be the same. A lot of competitions are looking for different things. There's some competitions that want you to blow their minds, do something that's never been done before, really push the limit. And there's some competitions that are to showcase their product to like their neighborhood bars or Jane Doe behind their home, where you don't really need to have really expensive equipment, experience, and whatnot. So there's pros and cons of competing. We all know this, and I'm going to share a few of mine. So pros of competing. Practice. Every time you do it, you're going to get better for the next time. You have the ability to network. You're going to meet people. The competitors are going to help you in your career. You're going to be friends, and you never know what those relationships are going to foster into. You get your name out there, which can, it's limited what you can get with your exposure. You can win prizes. You can win money. I won trips to France. I've won cash prizes. I won some really cool, like one-of-a-kind prizes. Travel, that's one of my favorite things from it. So you get to travel, you know, to your region. If it's a national thing, you get to all meet up in one spot, or even internationally. And then you never know, there could be a job that could be offered to you because of your experience with the competition. So those are the pros of competing. Now, on the bad end, there's some cons as well. So competitions can be time consuming. They can take all day if they're a 1-day event. They could take a lot of time. I've done a competition where it was, I think, 5 months from submitting to actually, the end of it. So you're taking off a lot of dates. You're traveling a lot. It can be really expensive. You're buying the right tools. You're paying for ingredients that may not even make it in your cocktail because you're doing some research and development. You're also risking not winning. So just because you got entered into a competition does not mean you're going to win. But again, you're still going to get that experience, but you're going against people who are just as talented and just as passionate with competing as you are. So that's a con as well. You're not guaranteed to win. And then sometimes the stuff can be really disorganized. There can be rules and they can tell you the context and they can give you everything that's going on that run of show, but that can be completely disregarded the day of. So with that being said, you personally need to realize why you want to compete. Like, are you passionate about the brand? Are you just competitive? Do you want to do that for networking? Do you want to win these prizes? So I can't tell you what that answer is. That's something that you need to go and decide why you are passionate, so you can keep that in mind and use that as your North Star from every step of the competition. So where to start? How do you know where to get into a competition? Well, the internet is out there. Type in cocktail competition, and that would help out a lot. If you're behind a bar, chat with your brand reps, chat with those liquor suppliers to see what's going on with their portfolio, and then learn about different competitions through that. Now, if you're, this happens to me still, I'll miss a deadline, or I see that the deadline is 2 days away from the day I found out about it. That's not enough time for me to come up with something that I think will be competition worthy. So I actually save that on my calendar. A lot of cocktail competitions are going to be like an annual event. So if I know this deadline is at the end of July, I will tell my Google Calendar to remind me about this competition in April, And also, if you know that this competition happens every year, you can play around. You can get your notebook out and kind of, come up with a cocktail that you think would be good, and then you can always tweak it so you can be ahead of the clock for next year. So know the brand. You found the competition that you're interested in, know as much about the brand as you can. You can find that on the bottle. You can go to their website, but you also want to know like who they are and who they represent, because some brands, I don't want to represent a brand because I might find them to be a little bit problematic, or I would say that their beliefs don't really align with mine. And when you're doing a competition, you're actually representing that brand, whether you believe it or not. And do I want to represent a brand that I may not completely agree with some of the things that they're doing? So keep that in mind, but you can do some research, learn about the brand, again, through the website, through their brand reps, and word of mouth. Every competition out there is going to be different from the others. Like I said, there are some competitions out there that really want you to push the envelope, and there's some of them that really want you to keep it kind of simple so people can, with all vast of experience, can enjoy that brand itself. Know the rules. Always look at the timeline of the dates. Look at those due dates. Make sure you plug that in. Do not wait until the last minute. We can tell. I'm going to talk about that later on as well. And if it's something that's tiered where it's locally, nationally, it's in different markets, look at those dates and see if your schedule is clear for that as well. Find out who's voting. Find out who the judges are in advance if you can. Some websites will show you the top 3 judges at the finals. So get to know them and see if you relate to them at all. That will help you in your development with cocktails. And then also see if there's a social media interaction. So that's kind of like a popularity contest, because obviously people online are going to be able to try your cocktail. Also, is there an element of people's choice? That's something I really enjoy. And then know about the number of ingredients. Some of them are being like, 6 to 7. Some of them are like limitless. Homemade ingredients. That's something that's not always allowed in competition. So keep that in mind. Know your audience. And then, is this the first year of cocktail competition for them? Which is very important for me. Like, I like structure. I like to know what's going on, have all my answers to my questions before I really start. And that's kind of hard to get when it's year one. It's kind of like a test market. So the story, your connection to the brand. One way the competition game has evolved since I started is that the inspiration of the cocktail is just as important as the cocktail itself. They want to know more about the artists as they do with the art. So that's something I struggled with because I was more of like simplistic. We're like, is this a good cocktail? Do you like the cocktail? Is it better than them's or theirs? All right, I should win. But like, no, they want to like, no, what inspired you? What does this represent to you in that cocktail? So it took me a moment to kind of get used to that and tell that story. So they want to know more about you as well. You may be required to share your cocktail through an essay or a video beforehand. So don't wait last minute. We can always tell as a judge. I can tell if you've been rushing on your videos or you have a lot of errors on your essays, or some people are just like doing one sentence for this thing that kind of requires a story. So keep in mind that these brands are spending lots and lots of money and they want someone who's taking it serious to represent them. So creating the drink. Now, I'm not really going to tell you how to make a drink here. That's going to be probably a different presentation for someone. But this is just to keep in mind like the steps that you want to go. So you're going to think about that North Star of like why you want to do it. You think about the theme of your cocktail competition and keep that theme in mind. So like, for example, if this is a cocktail competition that's focused on sustainability, you want to make sure that you are keeping sustainability in every step of the process. There's a thin line between making a great cocktail and highlighting the spirit. Sometimes the best tasting cocktail can lose points because it doesn't highlight the brand itself. So keep in mind, this is a brand sponsored competition. This is an event. They want to see why they're the best. So if you have a cocktail that is, let's say it's a Negroni and it's a gin competition, but you added some really cool vermouth and some saline, and then it's really great, but I can't taste the gin, you're not going to do very well in that competition. All right, so the glass, you have your cocktail, you think your flavors are shining, so you want to pick that, you want to pick the vessel for your glassware. Think about the glassware. Does the glass actually change the perception of the flavor? So you think about like a wide mouth versus one that's more concentrated, so your olfactory nerves are affected. Will the drinking vessel fit the vibe of the drink? So let's say you're making a cocktail and this is for a pool party. Like, do you think that a Nick and Nora glass would be appropriate for a pool party themed cocktail competition? Think about the ice as well. If it needs ice, what kind of ice does it need? Does it need like special flavored ice that you need to make in advance? And if you're bringing your own ice, think about the venue as well. Is that venue going to be able to keep your ice cold until we're ready? My pro tip here is if you have a glass or your cocktail is something really cool in color and you want to highlight that, you want to have a clear glass so we can see that. So this glassware here, these are my coupes. I think that each one has a different personality. So this one that's right here with that very long stem, I know behind a bar, you're probably breaking 6 of those a night from your guest. But it's elegant, so it's really classy, it's really sexy. The ones on the bottom here are a little bit more generic. So sometimes you are going to have to invest in some money if you want to stand out a little bit more and have your glassware tell a story. These glasses here are cool and unique, but again, they're not going to showcase the actual color or the contents of your cocktail. So keep that in mind as well. Same with the rocks glasses here. They're all different sizes and shapes. This one here is cool, but again, if your wash line is here, that's probably not the best glassware that you're going to need for your cocktail. So your final product, you have your contents taste great. You put it in a vessel that highlights that cocktail. Now you want to think about your garnish. Make your garnish make sense with your story and your cocktail. Garnishes are meant to attract the drinker, It reels them in. So it's something that if I'm walking across the room and I have this and you see it, you're like, I don't know what that is, but I want that. That's the goal that I have when I have a garnish in my cocktail. Again, I want to make it make sense. So we talked about the zero waste with the sustainability. So like, it's kind of weird to see a cocktail that has 3 big bushels of mint, like a mint julep, but it's a sustainability cocktail. So I'll see it. I think it's cool. I'll take a photo, but I'm taking all this mint and I'm just throwing it to the side, never to be touched again. And that could have been used to make so much more. So think about it. Does your garnish have a purpose? Is it an edible garnish? Is it meant to be eaten? And if it is meant to be eaten, like when am I supposed to eat that with your cocktail? Will it change the flavor of the drink? Should I have it as an amuse-bouche and then enjoy the cocktail, or should I be sipping on the cocktail, eat the garnish, and then go back to the cocktail and it enhances it? So make sure you're able to tell that story. I might ask those questions if I'm ever going to be your judge for anything. Does the flavor change over time? So think about mint, or think about tea. It's going to sit there for a moment. It's actually going to start to infuse into your cocktail. Is that what you want to happen? If not, just keep that in mind. You might have to find something else. And does it change the aroma? Is it perishable? If you have perishable garnishes, and this is a cocktail competition where there's a lot of traveling involved, are you able to travel with that safely? And if not, is this a garnish that you can easily get from any location? So if you have an apple, yeah, you can go get an apple garnish from any location that you go to. But if it's a rare mint, different tea, you source it from something else, keep that in mind. And also prep time. Is this something where I can just chop up an apple and throw it on my cocktail? Or is this something that I need time to like put in a dehydrator, infuse in some different spices? Make sense of the senses. So you have your cocktail, you have your vessel, you have your garnish. Now analyze these 5 steps here. Your smell. Does it smell good? You know, does it make me want to have it more? You know, you see it with your eyes, or you taste with your eyes, and you smell before you taste it. So think about if it needs an aroma element to elevate the cocktail. So like smoke, citrus oil, absinthe. We all know that if you use egg white, you should kind of hide that aroma with either some citrus or another aroma element here as well. Touch. Think about the glass. Think about the whole thing. So I'm holding the glass. What does that glass feel like to my hand? I've seen cocktails out there that look really cool. They're very photogenic, but they have like, let's say like powdered, and they'll take half of the glass and they'll have it just rolled in that powder. So my whole glass here has like powdered beads or something like that. So then I know as a drinker that I have to constantly keep in mind that I need to hold it from one side. I'm thinking about that condensation that's going to make that powder go down to the side, and it's going to get really messy. And I don't know if that's something that I want, depending on the vibe that I'm, you know, drinking my cocktail in. Also think about touch as also what you're feeling on your palate. So is this something that really tingles? Think about like a menthol cooling thing, or is it like spicy, it really burns? What's the texture on the tongue? I'm really big on explaining, like, I not only do I want cocktails to taste good, but I also, I'm sensitive on my mouthfeel. Like I like it to be viscous. I like it to have some volume, not just water-like. So sound, this is a little bit harder to do, but think about just like, is this something that requires a blender, a Lewis bag, hard shaking? And I say that because like these are movements that make a lot of noise, and just think about the vibe and that setting that you have. If this is something that's going to kind of enhance, if it fits, or if it's going to obstruct or disrupt that setting. And then sight, like I said, people see it. And then I worked at a place where, shout out to Chris Salabi, she made this cocktail called the Black Orchid. So it was in a martini glass, but we took an orchid flower and we froze it in an ice beer. And it was a vodka cocktail. And there was a lot of people out there who said, we don't drink vodka or whatnot, whatnot. But to walk across the room to see that glass, and the cocktail actually came on the side vessel that you poured over at tableside, like no matter what it was, people wanted that. So that's something that you want to invoke when you make a cocktail. You want people to see it, wonder what's in it, and want to have it. So you have your smell, you have your touch, you have your sound, but you have your most important sense right here. It is the taste. It's the largest impact on your score. Obviously, you need to have it taste good. Is it meant to be paired with food? There are a lot of cocktail competitions out there these days that are culinary inspired. So you have to kind of think about how flavors play with that. And then I can't say, yeah, it would go good with food. It's going to be like, what course would it go with? Would it be a vegetable? Would it be a, you know, what kind of meat? You know, think about like a wine pairing. So also, is this something that you would imagine your drinker having multiple ones or one and done? That one is important to think about, because there can be some flavors that are very concentrated that, yeah, it's really enjoyable, but I can only handle one. Or there's some that are like smooth and great, and this is something like they call like a patio pounder or like a summer drink, that you have multiple ones. So that's not something that you really need to explain to a judge unless they actually ask, but you always want to have these answers already in your head. Now, when you make your cocktail, always try it fresh. So if you're competing and you're making your cocktail for the judges, boom, we're going to try it right away. Now, try it 5 minutes later. Again, it's going to warm up. If you have ice, it's going to dilute the cocktail even more. Try it 10 minutes and try it 15 minutes later. There's going to be some competitions where like these are the finals and we have to go back to different cocktails. We'll keep in mind that, yeah, your cocktail's been sitting for 15 minutes, but just take note of the flavors that are going to change. For an example, I made a cocktail that had a candied caramel that I made with Fernet that I made as like a glass ceiling that I broke over on top. And so like, yeah, it's going to change the flavor over the 5, the 10, the 15 minutes. So I had to be able to explain like, that's what I wanted, or like, hey, hurry up and drink it or it's not going to taste too good. And that's not really what I want to do. So one big thing is you want to highlight that spirit. So remember that the cocktail spirit is the star. So let's say it's a gin, and one of the botanicals is we'll say peanut butter itself. If this cocktail tastes fantastic, but I know that my gin is unique because it has peanut butter, and I don't taste any of the peanut butter, it's not going to be really a good outcome on the scoring card for you. It might be my favorite cocktail, but it probably won't win because it doesn't highlight what makes my brand unique. And then flavor wise, this is a cool bit to get a couple of extra bonus points in, is to talk about why the brand that you use for this cocktail is the only brand that works for this cocktail. It's kissing up a little bit, but again, these are brands that are investing a lot of money, and they want to hear why their brand is better than their competitors. So you have your cocktail, you have your vessel, it looks great, it tastes great. Now you need to take a photo of it so you can submit it. You don't need to have a lot of photo editing experience. You don't need really cool equipment. You can use a ring light like I have over here. Cell phones are very, very advanced these days, so it works just as fine. So I'm going to show you a couple examples of what's good and what's not good. But before I do we have any questions so far? All right, I'm going to take that as we can move on, but feel free to interrupt me.
Not seeing anything, Nigel.
You good?
Awesome. All right, so this is a yay photo. And the reason why this is a yay photo is because it's clear to the point. I can tell that this is a cocktail. I can tell that this is a rocks glass. I see that ice. I see the garnish very clear. There are little to no distractions on here. I can see the floor and it looks like a chair, but that's all right. My main focus is on this cocktail here. This, though I think it's a pretty photo, it's not an ideal photo when it comes to making your cocktail. The reason why it's a bad angle, is this a cocktail or is it some really creamy soup that has thyme? Like, I like the hearts that are put on there, but I don't know what this is. I don't know what the base spirit is. It could be a rock, it could be a coupe, it could be a bowl, I don't know. This is a yay. So I say this because it has a unique glassware. This is a Nick and Nora, but not all Nick and Noras have that design. I can tell this is probably for a Maker's Mark competition because I assume because that bottle of Maker's Mark is in the background. It's a good angle. I can see the glass. It's focusing on this garnish here. It looks like it's my Parmesan chip with some chocolate cocoa powder on top. This is a no for me. So many things going on. There's plates. I can see a stain on the table. I mean, the garnish looks all right. Cocktail looks all right, but I'm kind of distracted with everything that I see. So make sure that when you're taking photos of your drinks that you're keeping in mind what that background looks like. And just make sure that the focus is where the focus needs to be. These are good examples as well. So I can tell these are going to be more food focused. This is one of my cocktails for the Maker's Mark competition as well. This is not my photo, so shout out to the photographer for them. But I can tell that this cocktail has, on the top in the coupe, has coffee elements in there because it's coffee beans on the ground or on the table with a little bit of granite coffee beans on top. I can see that this other one here is going to make me think that it's more light and refreshing because I see some sours or some fruits in the background. And obviously I like coffee in my cocktail because there's coffee beans in that one too. So it makes me wonder, what the coffee element is going to be like in that cocktail. But that being said, I don't really see too many things in the background. The background's clean, nothing's obstructing the view of the cocktail as well. Now, big Nas, what I say, we'll look at the top with all the multiple drinks here. One, there's multiple drinks, so I don't know which one I'm supposed to be looking at, but it's under bad lighting. So it's obviously a red light. So I don't know if the color is red. I don't know what the color is. Just too many things going on. There's a big blue spot over there. I can see that's the edge of the bar, but it doesn't make sense with the photo. So it's distracting because now I'm looking at what's in that. Like, is that a drawer? Is that a freezer? And then on the bottom here, I mean, that person looks beautiful. I'm really kind of concerned what they're doing. It looks like it's a VR experience with a cocktail, but it's supposed to be focusing on that drink, which is taking up a little bit of that photo. So I don't know what's going on. This does not make me think it's for a cocktail. So this is a big nah for me. So my heart knows I can never stop complaining about this. So I could be on this deck all day. If you are submitting for a cocktail competition, do not share your drink on social media. And there are so many reasons why. I see people who have submitted their cocktail competition for, or they're training for such and such competition, but the submissions are still open. So if you were sharing your photo, you're sharing your inspiration, I've seen whole recipes being shared. What's stopping anyone from taking your recipe and like tweaking it here or there, or making it their own, or just flat out stealing your recipe? So don't do that. I think that you should share your submissions like after they're closed, but even so, you want to know the rules. So for example, I blind judge a lot of competitions that I may not be part of in fronthand. And so what that means is that I'll read your essay, I'll read your, your recipe, and I'll see your photo. But if I know it's you because you posted this like 4 days ago on your social media, then I have to omit myself from actually scoring your stuff. And that could hurt you in the long end. So you want to kind of share your submission after the submissions are closed with permission from the people who are doing your judging. So like I said, the best time to do it, honestly, is just like when the whole competition is over. You can just kind of share your experience. And that way, again, you're not risking that someone's taking your thing. It's like sometimes I like look at that and like, I want to take it. I want to like change one thing and submit it and then like hope I get in and then you don't, just so I can say, this is why you shouldn't do it. So don't do that. That's my big heart now. Yeah. So anyway, you submit it. You didn't share it online, and congratulations, you got picked. So your hard work is paying off and you have a chance to win the big prize. So take the time and get ready. You want to reevaluate the rules. Again, know those dates. Don't say, oh no, I have a wedding that day, or like, I can't do that because I work Mondays and this competition is on Monday. Like these are things that you should have already known before getting into it. But again, you want to review this as you go on. So keep practicing in practice. I like to come up with, I'll take a piece of paper and like draw out a bar and then just mark where I'm going to have my mise en place. I think that's important because we'll talk about this later too, but you want to work while you move and talk while you move. And so in order to do that, you need to be comfortable where your stuff is, that mise en place there. So like I can grab my water that's on my right, which is actually my left, I'm wrong. But anyway, because I already knew where my water was, I don't want to do this and look frantic and look insecure. So practice, 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 get your mise en place out. Now the judges, learn who the judges are. These are the people who are going to control the outcome in the game. If you can know who they are beforehand, see how who they are and like how they relate to you. So if this is a tiki competition and you found out your judge doesn't like tiki cocktails, that doesn't make sense, but you want to kind of like cater to their preferences. Or if you know someone who's like, I'm a vegan, do you want to do a cocktail that's like a bacon wash egg white cocktail? So just if you have this information, learn that information in advance and use the best of it. Also know their industry. I've done cocktail competitions where some of my judges are like just celebrities in the neighborhood, and it's cool, but sometimes it doesn't make sense. I'll do like a Negroni or something, and they're like, I don't like gin, I don't like bitter, and I'm like, why are you on a Negroni cocktail competition? This doesn't make sense. And now I don't know why you're here, just because you're giving out autographs and it's a media thing. Yeah, that can happen as well. Also, if your audience is able to participate in judging, that's something that you need to know. So that's an opportunity to get people's choice. I will say with the experience, I haven't seen it happen. I'm not saying that it's not possible, but your overall winner and your people's choice doesn't necessarily happen. So there have been times where like, yeah, I want to go for people's choice because it's cool to have so many people come up to you and be like, I liked yours the best. But like, if you're in it to win it, sometimes you're like, I appreciate that, but I want to make sure that like they're the ones that like it. So we know like a general audience prefers a little bit of sweeter with the cocktails, and that's not always the case when it comes to the judges. So the performance, again, I'm going to keep saying practice, practice, practice. So practice in advance. If you're called up to a bar to do your presentation, you should have a few minutes to set up. So go through all your motions, mimic, mime that stuff. I've done stuff where like I'm walking across the room to get on the stage, and then I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to go. And then I'm like, I don't have my jigger. I don't have my, like the stuff that you need. So always be prepared. Make a checklist if you need to, and just go down the points. But have your mise en place ready, go through the motions. Knowing the score sheet, that's important, obviously, because you want to get the highest amount of points. but rank them from most important to least important, because some rules are going to be worth breaking. You know, there's some that say you have 5 minutes, but if you go over 5 minutes, we're going to take away this many points. But sometimes if you need more than 5 minutes to really showcase your cocktail or share your story, then it's okay to kind of sacrifice a few pawns to save your king. So the speech, there are different ways of doing this. I have seen competitions where they give you a mic, whether it be a handless mic, or unfortunately one that's a hand-hold mic. There's been crowd work where like not only are the judges sitting in front of you, but you need to get the audience excited in your presentation. And then there's also private scoring where basically either the judges come to you or you go to a room and it's just you and the judges. Honestly, I think that every style has its pros and cons. My favorite is probably more of the private work, but to each its own. It takes practice. Say the brand's name. Again, this is a marketing thing. I like to say, if this was my water and you're doing an ice competition and you're using my water, I want you to say why my water is the best, but I don't want to say you're here, you say your water, your water, your water. I'm like, say my brand. I need to use this for a mic, you know, I need this for a media plug. So always say the brand. It's not the gin, it's not the gin, it's Bombay, you know, it's the gin's name. So be yourself and play to your strengths. I like to say not highlight, but acknowledge your flaws. So there was a time when I was being judged. This would have been for Bar Live or Bar Smart Service. So I was pouring in front of Delta Graf, who this was maybe like 10 years ago, and I'm like shaking. I'm very nervous, and I'm literally have my jigger here, and I'm like, I can't control myself. And then Dale goes, "Hey Nigel," he's like, "calm down. I'm just a person. Just relax. You know what you're doing." And then I go, what are you talking about, Dale? I was like, haven't you heard about this new agitation process? I was like, if I shake it now, I don't have to shake it so hard later. And then we both laughed at that. I mean, it calmed my nerves a little bit, but I recognize it. I'm not getting flustered. I just relax and kind of, you know, play on the humor a little bit. So if you mess up, acknowledge it. We all mess up. It's fine. But just pretend like this is a job interview, because you never know who's watching. You can have an opportunity from the judges, the brand, from someone from the audience. A little bit about me is that I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I did something with Cointreau that brought me to the finals in Chicago. This was a competition where like it was $5,000. I wanted to win it so bad. I'm working the audience and shaking hands, and then I didn't win the prize. I was a little bummed out about that, but a couple of days later, I got an email from someone who I met at the cocktail competition, and they said, "Hey, I work for so-and-so. I want to give you an opportunity to work here." And I was like, "What? Fine." It was for the aviary, and I was like, "The aviary wants me." Yeah. So it's like, give me a couple of months. I'm going to sell all my stuff, and I'll be right out there. But because of that one competition, here I am in Chicago now. You know, running the USVG chapter. I love it, but this would not have happened. I don't see that happening if it wasn't for this cocktail competition. So you never know how a competition could literally change your life. My little pro tip here is if the brands have a certain color, like a color palette, you can match it. Again, they're kind of looking for a brand and representative for that day. You know, there's Diageo World Class, where they find someone who's going to represent them for a longer period of time or so. But like, let's say if their color palette is blue, it's okay to wear a little bit of blue when you're on stage showcasing how much you love this product. So the talking points, again, there's crowd work. This is when, you know, the judges are here and then the crowd's behind, they're hopefully cheering you on. You have to get that energy up. It's a little hard, but it can be distracting, especially like if you don't go first or you're closer to last and you see that people in the audience are getting a little bored. It kind of hurts a little bit to do your presentation and you see people who are on their phone or like constantly talking and blah, 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 blah. So that's the con. It can be distracting, but like if they support you, you feel that energy and it's an amazing feeling. So private judging, it's just you and the judges. That's the pro and the con. I like that format a little bit the best, but it's up to you. And then opening is when I'm doing my performance in front of my competitors. And so the ranking, who goes first, who goes last, definitely kind of makes an impact on my performance. I necessarily don't want to go first, and I really don't want to go last. The reason why is because first, you're the guinea pig. So the one that I did in Chicago when I first won, we were told that we were going to have a handless mic. We did not have a handless mic. We had a hand hold mic, and I'm shaking my egg white cocktail, and this is just like very frustrating. And I'm like, I can't do this. So I put the mic down and then I just continue and I just talk to the judges. Well, after I go up, then they were like reconvening. There's like, we're not going to do the mic anymore. We're going to change the format of the judging. Is that really fair? But that's what happened. And that's what happens when you go first sometimes. If anyone from the competition is watching this, I'm really sorry. I'm just sharing my experience. And then also, but I do like kind of going first because I like to think that my performance can be unique. I'll go online, I'll research the brand, I'll find some things that I don't really think that anyone else will find. And so I'll share that story and share how that brand relates to me. I'll share some facts. But then if I go closer to last, I risk the chance of someone actually sharing that same information. And I'm like, oh man, they did their research too. So then I feel like I'm regurgitating something that was already said when I feel like I really earned my right to say it first, you know? So, and then last, I've done a competition that was their first year doing it. There were 9 competitors. Each competitor had to make 3 different cocktails and I was dead last. So by the time that I got to my time, they were kind of in the bag a little bit. So like I was doing my presentation, they weren't paying attention. They were asking me the same questions over and over again. And I was like, there's no way I did well on this. So there's pros and cons of being first, middle, or last. So these are just examples of the different crowd works that I was talking about. So as you see, this guy here is getting the energy from the crowd. And like I said, it's a great feeling to know that you are supported, that you did well from your audience here. And if Trish, if you're here, I see you in the second one here. And this is still the crowd work, you know, she looks like she's very excited for the cocktail that he's pouring. And so again, once you get support from your audience, it's the best. Now, this is the private judging that I'm talking about, where it's just you and it's just the judges. So there's Dale DeGroff. Again, if I was there, I'd probably still be shaking it in this photo. But it's cool. It's a little bit more intimate. It's a little bit more calming in some cases. And then this is You Got Me Mic'd Up. So again, this is the competition where like I was supposed to be like this gentleman here, using both of my hands in my presentation with a wireless mic. But instead I ended up being like the lady pouring the Jack Daniels in the second one where I'm holding it. And again, for me to have a shaking cocktail, egg white, whatnot, it wasn't the best environment for me. But yeah, there's pros and cons. I think the mic'd up is the one that took me the most experience to get used to, if that makes sense. So you made your presentation. Everyone thought you did great. Now you play the waiting game. The judges are deliberating. They're trying their stuff. We're going to do the little drum roll and see what happens. And it says you didn't win, but you didn't win this time. That's okay. You got close. Every time you do something, you're going to get better at it in the future. So you'll learn what you did and you learn what you did well. You learn what the areas of opportunity is what we're saying to do better. So talk to the judges and congratulate the winner. You know, you want to follow the judges to see how you could have done better, you know, and also learn your strengths. It's not just what did I do wrong? It's kind of like, what did you really like? So I know I can keep that moving on for my other stuff. You want to mingle with the audience. You want to mingle with the competitors. Again, you've made new connections and you never know what those connections are going to bring to you. And then say thank you to the venue and the staff. Because I don't know about you, if you ever hosted something behind your bar where other people were behind your bar, it is very like stressful and you get frantic because they're like, that's not where that goes, or hey, that's my tool, blah, blah, blah. So you want to thank the venue for even giving you a chance to be there. So stay in good spirits, avoid being visibly upset. I know that's hard for a lot of people, but you just gotta push through it. Again, you're around a lot of people who are just as passionate, just as talented as you, so you're not guaranteed to win. It took me practice. I don't win everything still, and but I have perfected the whole side head, side clap, and I smile. And sometimes it helps if you just tell yourself a little joke. You know, you're like, ha, 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 ha. And then you can go back. It was easier when I was like driving home and I would be like, ah! Now I ride the public transit, so I have to be cool, so I'm completely home. But anyway, smile, you're getting better, you have that experience. So let's say it's next year, you're doing this stuff again, you learn what you can do, you're getting better at it. You're like, you know what, I didn't like that I was uncomfortable with this headless mic, but now I'm so good at it because I've done it 6 times between now and then. So the judges are deliberating again, they're trying their stuff, and boom, you win. So congratulations, your hard work has paid off and everyone is proud of you. Enjoy your success, you know. Still be thankful, thank the judges, thank everyone who was participating in the cocktail competition, don't rub it in anyone's face. Haha, I win, you lose. Haha, I win, you lose. Like, people are still watching you. Like I said, I didn't win a cocktail competition, and because of that competition, I still was offered a job and offered benefits that I feel like outweighed the actual grand prize. So be a good sport. So my final thoughts and my tips, and then we'll spend the remaining time answering questions, or you can share your stories, and I'm happy to do that. I'll just sit here and make it load. But do we have any questions in the chat room right now that I can answer while this is not pulling up?
Oh, it came up and then it went away. There is a question in the chat, but it looks like it's up. Do you want to take it, or do you want to hold on for just one more minute?
Let's hold on for one more minute. So I'm just going to go down this list here. So my final thoughts and tips. Like, if you know there's a cocktail competition and it happens all the time, it's happening every year, it's an annual thing, like, look at the previous competitors and look at the competitions. I know there's a lot of stuff out there that you can see on YouTube. So you can watch years and years and years, listen to the judges' feedback on what they're looking at. I know the judges aren't necessarily the same judges every year, but they're also going to give you some tips that are going to help you out here. There have been competitions that I've done that I've been unsure about, so I will reach out to previous competitors and they're like, oh yeah, it's a great experience, they'll definitely support you. Or they'll say, hey, even though it says on paper, like, bring nothing, bring everything, because they didn't have anything when I got there. Don't cookie cut your submissions. So I say cookie cut because this means when you are using the same recipe for several cocktail competitions for different brands across the board and just hoping that you get picked for all of them. Me being not affiliated with any brand, I get to bounce around and help out as a contractor. So I'm like, I totally recognize the same recipe or the sub recipe from a previous competition. And I think that just kind of puts marks on your integrity. I'm not necessarily going to judge it, but I can be like, I know who this is because it's the same cocktail that was from this one. Or I will say, this is another reason why you shouldn't post your stuff online, because someone could have just stolen your actual recipe and just submitted it for a different one. So avoid using, or sorry, another tip would be avoid infusing the actual brand. So if you're, let's say, especially like a gin where they have all these botanicals, you're taking that gin and you're infusing it with, let's say, thyme or pink peppercorns or something like that. Basically, sometimes it could be translated as you're taking this brand and you're telling the master distiller that, like, I can make your product even better. It's not good enough, so I'm going to change it by adding something to the actual spirit. So you can avoid doing that by adding that infusion to another element to your cocktail. So like, let's say if it's a Negroni and you want to have thyme in there, don't infuse the gin, infuse like the vermouth. Or make a, add the ingredient outside of the spirits, what I'm trying to say. Bring everything you need, even the things that you might not need, and bring backups of it. So like, I bring like 4 jiggers, I'll be on stage, and just in case I knock one over and everyone's like, oh no, I can be like, what? Like, you play around. Like, again, you're acknowledging your flaws or whatnot, or you're just acknowledging your mistakes. But bring what you need, bring more than what you need. And then you never know. And then you be a good sport. I mean, if you, it's up to you if you want to share your tools with someone else who forgot their bar spoon or, whatnot. But it's an opportunity for camaraderie. Bring what you need, bring even more than what you need. Like I said, I make a list. Hometown advantages, that just means you know where everything is. If, let's say, the finals are in your neighborhood. So being in a bigger market as Chicago, a lot of the local competitions may be in the city here. So like, if I were a competitor, and I know that the stuff is at this venue, well, I know that, like, hey, just in case my lime juice spills or I don't have enough, I can easily go to this store because I know where it is. So if you're in an unfamiliar city, kind of just locate where these grocery stores are, or be friends with the bars. I did something in Portland where, like, I either didn't have something or I lost something or whatnot. And I was able to make friends with the bar next door. And I was like, I'll give you my ID. I'll throw you some cash, but like, can I just borrow your shaker set, for a couple hours? And they're like, yeah. So you never know, like, use your charm, take advantage, but know your battling ground is what I like to say. So again, best practices for travel, it's just to have a backup plan. Again, if you're doing that garnish, is there garnish something that you can easily travel with, or is that something that you have to make there? So keep in mind that you have to go out and get your tools and your sources to make that happen. A hotel fridge hack, if you have a hotel room and they don't have a fridge, you can talk to them about getting a fridge for medical reasons. You know, your medication needs to stay cold and you need to have it every so often. So you prefer to have it in your room and not somewhere else. In most cases, they'll give you a mini fridge. It's happened to me a couple of times. Not every competition is worth it. Some of them are like really expensive. It's really stressful. And then you might just want to, you know, a title or something that really doesn't equate to all the work that you put in. So don't feel like you need to do every cocktail competition to be good. Invest in tools and bottles. Again, this is one of those cons where like it gets expensive, but like if you start investing in yourself to get better, because this is something that you want to continue to do, invest and get some really cool flashy tools or something like that, you know, like stand out from the crowd. Don't do it in a way of like being gimmicky to make up for your lack of experience or talent or skill. Like do it to enhance it, if that makes sense. So we already talked about the people's choice and the grand winner. Sometimes you have to pick and choose whether you want to focus on one or the other. I've been definitely in the beginning grounds. I really wanted to hear a lot of people say, I really like yours. So I was going for that people's choice, but now I'm like, I want to win this whole thing. And so like, I'm like focusing on what the judges want. So I'll say that to in a cocktail competition where the format is you're at a station and people go and try your stuff and then the judges are coming. If you know that you are next to go, it is okay to tell everyone else like, hey, please come back. I need to focus on this because they're about to be at my table in like 3 minutes. I felt really bad doing that at the beginning, but like, again, you're there to like compete and you hope, you know, you want to do well. So like, if you need to get your station cleaned up and get ready, put everyone on hold. So taste before you pour, straw test it, you know, you could do it and then like, oh no, I completely forgot to put the simple syrup in there. And now they're going to think it's very bitter and not balanced. But if you straw test it, you catch your mistake before it happens. Split pour is if you have 4 vessels, you have to make 4 drinks and you have them in 2 shakers. Just make sure that everything is in each shaker. That way it's more balanced. So don't just do 1 and 2. You're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, and then topping it off with your other one. But yeah. And then a big one is don't let your assistant take the spotlight or share the spotlight with you. I have been in a competition where my competitor had a bar back and then the judges were asking questions to the competitor and like the bar back was kind of like assisting on the answers. And I was like, I feel like I'm being double teamed right now. So just make sure like you're the star of the show. The focus should be on you. So be nice, be kind. You're always on stage. You never know who's watching. You never know the future. And that is pretty much it. I'm just here for questions now in my last remaining 10 minutes.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you, Nigel. You actually got quite a few questions here in the last few minutes, so let's try and do quick but thoughtful. I'm going to go by timestamps the best I can, guys. Nicole sent the first question in. What if the judges have dietary or allergy restrictions, but you don't know that until the day of? She typically asks if they have dietary allergy restrictions, but if the judges change last minute, question mark.
Oh, that's a good question. If you can't control it, then you can't control it. And also that I would feel like that's more on the judges themselves. And they should keep that in mind too. Like if I have a peanut allergy and you made it like a peanut orgeat or something like that, I would omit myself from judging. But I would listen carefully to what the other judges are saying about your cocktail and keep that in mind when I'm scoring you, because I can still score it on everything else and I can kind of be fair, maybe take an average of my other judges if there's something that I can have in your cocktail. So I'm basing it off of what they're saying. So that's a good question. But again, if you can't control it, you can't control it.
I think, yeah, if it's a last minute change too, they have to be thoughtful of that, I'd imagine. Bobby Dag wants to know when you're going to compete for any of the IBA competitions.
I don't know. I'm feeling the urge to compete again. It's been about a year now. So who knows? Who knows? Hopefully soon though.
And then Clark asked in chat, how do you adapt for spirits that you cannot get in your home state? Like if it's a required sponsored spirit, will be supplied at the event, but not in your home state.
That's a hard one to do, especially how far they are. If it's not a way that you can get it like shipped to you or have like someone bring it to you somehow, do your best to find out what it's similar to that you have access to, and then practice when you get on site, if you make it to the next level with that actual product, and do any adjustments that you need to. Explain that to your judges if they're saying, hey, like your specs are different, but like if you can back up any changes and you do it with confidence and it makes sense, then you should be all right. But yeah, that's a harder one to do. I was from Columbus, Ohio, which is the secondary market. I don't have access to everything. But yeah, I've done some research. I'm like, what does it taste like? And I'm like, oh, it's kind of like this with this and a little bit of that. So then I'll play around with those flavor profiles to kind of make up for what I'm missing out on.
I love that. Yeah. Nick Shea asks, do you have thoughts on how to think about wide open prompts, like make something using our brand, but no other instructions or clues what they're looking for? Let's assume it's first year of the competitions.
If it's first years of competition, yeah, it's definitely guinea pig. It's a really stressful. That's one thing that I like I'm like, do I want to do this? Is it worth it? Because they don't know what's going on. I won't know what's going on. Just go with the flow. Just make room for changes. Pretend like you're doing an opening at your bar and there's no reservations and you're just kind of going with it. Just kind of do it for the experience.
Felipe asks, what do you think each of the biggest, most popular contests are looking for in their participants? Examples he gives are Patron, IBA, and World Class.
Those are good ones. I have not participated as a competitor in them, but I will say big ones are looking for knowledge, education, professionalism. Those are something like we want to hear you spit facts and history of not only the brand, but the product that you're using. You know, you want to talk about the tequila, you want to break it down, talk about the agave, the work that goes on behind the scenes that make this stuff happen. You definitely want to make sure that you're it's a marketing thing, and this is one of the bigger ones. This is a worldwide one. Like, you want to make sure that you are marketable. So you want to pay attention to the way that you're dressed. I know that seems like it's taken away from the cocktail experience, but again, the big ones, your photos being taken, you're put on these national, international platforms, magazines, and videos. Like, you can't do that in a backwards hat and a hoodie with a t-shirt. I mean, if it's maybe you could one day, but like, you're not the ideal candidate. So especially with those competitions, usually if you do very well in those competitions or you win those competitions, like, you're given some type of contract or some type of job where you're representing these brands. So you want to make sure that you remain marketable from the beginning to the end. I hope that answers the question. Yeah, it goes a little bit beyond the whole, like, is it a good drink? No, it's kind of like, we want to see if you can talk about our product consistently in different atmospheres.
Thank you. Eric asks, you research the judges. What about your fellow competitors?
What was the question?
He mentions how you said, you know, if you have the ability to research your judges, what about researching your competitors?
Yeah, I definitely do that. I will, even if we're not officially like social media friends, I will see where you work, what I feel like your aesthetic is with your cocktails. I'm like, oh, this person really loves pineapple, or this person works at a prohibition bar, so I feel like that's going to be one of their strengths. Tessa in Atlanta, when I did the Makers Bar competition, so that was in her hometown. I flew from Chicago to compete against her in Atlanta, and I go in, and I'm from this place called the Berkshire Room. So we have a menu, but most of our cocktails are off menu. So it's just kind of like, I want this spirit, this flavor profile, and this glassware. And then I'm like, cool. I spend 40+ hours a week just like doing improv cocktails on the fly. And I was like, I feel like that's going to give me the edge. So then when I see Tessa and I look at where she works, her place doesn't even have a menu. They do exactly that. So like, what I feel like my edge was like, we're just on even grounds with that one. So, but yeah, just see if you can do any research on anyone involved, that's going to help you regardless of not if you win or not. I do it so I can see where they work. So I'm like, okay, I think this is kind of their vibe when it comes to cocktails. And that doesn't necessarily change what I'm doing, but it's kind of cool to know.
Yeah. We got about 3 minutes left, so I'm gonna keep rapid firing, try and get to as many as we can, guys. If we don't get to all of them, Nigel, do you have your Instagram handle that you can share with everybody real quick? It's on the
That's
screen,
right
I believe,
there,
right
yeah.
now.
So my personal one is Nigel of All Trade, or you can do Vanity Cocktails, which is a new on IG, so it's not popping as much as it should be yet. But yeah, Nigel of All Trade. I'm accessible on Facebook. I'm around. You got me.
Okay. All right. Ingrid asks if you're judging a cocktail photo for a competition, do you take away points if there's not a bottle of the brand in it? Does that matter?
I don't think that it matters, not in my experience. Yeah, take it or leave it. But I have seen people who have used the same photo for different cocktail competitions, that don't have the bottle in there. So it doesn't help or hurt. It's just something to know.
Yeah. Nick Shea has another one. Also, any tips on the create something from scratch in 10 minutes style of final, where you have to work with the ingredients they provided, I guess, covered challenge, and then think on your feet rather than bring in the masterpiece?
Yeah, just play around, do some research on how flavors work with each other. So like you have the flavor Bible is a great thing that I did. I think that when I started getting into cocktail competitions that involved around like culinary arts, I started watching like Chopped and all those shows there where they do those impromptu challenges and kind of understanding how, oh yeah, I didn't ever thought that this would go well with coconut or whatnot. So that's going to come with experience and time.
Yeah. Oh, this is a dark one. Have you ever won a competition and the brand didn't give you your prize? Who's running that?
Yeah, I would say I think that I'm blessed that no, that's not happened. I've done some like really local ones, like even in Chicago. That's like, oh, this is a Pilsen neighborhood competition or whatnot. It seems to be chaotic, and they're like, hey, we'll get you later. We'll take you out to dinner or something like that. But yeah, for the most part, in my experience, I've been paid what I was owed. Not in a way to make dark, but yeah.
I'm gonna wrap up questions now. I did have one when I didn't get my price for a year, but it ended up being as they made custom like what do you call those jackets that the football players in high school wear? Varsity jackets.
Yeah.
With the brand on it. And I was like, okay, that was worth waiting a year.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you, Nigel, for taking the time to talk to everybody here today. I want to thank everybody who joined us for being here today. A reminder about the survey, please. If it hasn't already been shared, Brandy, can you share the link in the chat one more time so people can have it? This is always one of my favorite times every year of sitting down with experts like Nigel. And, a lot of us in this room, and myself included, have been in a lot of competitions. We can always have things to learn. So thank you very much, Nigel.
Of course.
Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, practice. Do anything that you can to like learn more about just your skills, get better. So I've been a member of the USVG for over a decade, and it's amazing to be in a position where I can give back a little bit of so much that I have gained. So there's brands are coming out with different academies now. So those are good resources to kind of get to know the brand, get to fine tune some of your skills, learn something that you never knew that you needed to learn, or with something that will enhance your ability to do better in the future. So it all comes with practice. It comes with time. Again, the last couple of years of when I started winning the big stuff, and I've been doing this for over a decade. So you just put your heart into it and just do it for the fun and the experience. So thank you very much for having me here today. And I put my email in the chat. So if I didn't get to your question and you have questions either now or in the future, hit me up. I'll share my slides with everyone too. So cheers.
Yeah. So the link for the survey is in the chat. Click on it now because when the room closes, the chat goes away. I hope to see as many of you as possible at the 75th anniversary Jubilee in Phoenix. I see Trish made a plug for it there. Thank you. And good luck to the people in the chat that said they're going into some competitions right now. I saw 2 for Deep Eddy, and then what was it, JD, the barbecue and barrels. Good luck to all you guys, and thank you very much. We'll see you soon.
Yes, cheers. Best of luck to everybody.